Hi everyone, this is Melissa. This is going to be my testimony video that I am going to forward to over to Pro-Life Follower of Christ. This was an opportunity for me to do a testimony video, and this is what I've been asked if I would like to do this. This is an opportunity for me to be one of the people who probably out of many will be sharing their story about being pro-life. So I'm going to try to get a little bit more comfortable and confident talking in front of the camera. I have thrown my videos out to get, the algorithm going, and I haven't put a lot of effort in because I'm still learning and starting off. So this is a great way to start these videos. So I'm going to be talking about my testimony in life, pretty much even more than just, one particular topic. This may become a series. It may be, I don't know what it will turn into for their channel, but this will be on my channel also. And we'll see where the Spirit leads. We'll see what happens here with talking about this. So I'm coming at this now from a Christian angle. I'm going to talk about my life story, basically, which is to me and others, pretty amazing. And, I give all the glory to God. It's all Him. And I just want to get in there and talk about this. So, why I'm pro-life? That's one question that I've been asked. And to answer that, I would say, obviously, I would feel anyone should be pro-life. It's something that is kind of a no-brainer to me. You are expected, I think, to have children as you get older, or at some point in your life. I mean, you do want to be married and have kids, and I think that is something society has always talked about in one way or another. You have picked it up. I know for me it wasn't really, really cultivated. I know I had the dolls when I was little. One of them was thrown away because she had worms in her. Baby does this, baby does that. It was like my favorite doll because she could eat, she could crawl, she could do all these things. And then, that was just gone, as well as some other things in my life had, been gone too. And, and then I went into Barbie, and girls start developing and getting into other things. But a lot of girls are, usually taught you want to find Prince Charming, and then you want to be having children. And that was not my story. My story was more, it was being independent. Cosmo magazines were in my life. Finding a career was important. So what happened in my story was I basically had graduated high school early, so that was a privilege that I was able to do that. I pretty much did that all on my own. Nobody really helped me with that. I really never had help with homework or anything in my life. I kind of just did it on my own. I was a B student in elementary school. And high school, my grades did go, they weren't as good as they should have been, but I knew that if I could take the study halls and use them to do my school, I could finish school early. And that's what I decided to do. I had just heard in passing somebody mention about graduating early. I think I had one meeting maybe with the guidance counselor saying, yeah, this is what I want. I put together my schedule, pulled it together, and really, I just really wanted to be done with school. I was busy with my social life and my friends, and I didn't really care for high school. Elementary school I did because it was, a small group of us who were best friends, but high school, there was a lot of cliques. There was a lot going on there. I was always more into, being around my family and friends than I was school. So I did good enough to finish and graduate. And then I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had no idea. And I decided I would go to college because we had people come in talking about what we want to do with our life, as you know, what kind of career we want, and I had no idea. And the only thing I could think of is court reporting was where the money was at. So that's what I thought I was going to do with my life. So just to go to college because everyone else, kind of expected it, I went. And when I was there, I picked up a job in a court reporting firm. So I really was able to see what would be expected of me once I was done graduating. And for my personality then, and not really knowing or having direction where my life was going, I just knew that was not, the polished look in the office with all the lawyers and stuff was not something I wanted at that time. So whether I was, I'm sure if I put my mind to it, I could have definitely ended up on that path, but there were other things going on in my life that had been, a direction, had been pointing me to say this is not for me. Now, I had already had a forced abortion on me in high school and graduated early, so not healing from any of that, and I will share what happened with that. I was not, I was graduating from high school early and then going to college without really dealing with any of that. And then, let's see, I ended up, where my story starts changing is, I decided, okay, I would be married, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do once I was married. So I decided to throw myself into hairdressing school, and I did graduate from there, but before I graduated, I found out I was pregnant. So here I was thinking, okay, I'm going to stick to this, and I'm going to enter into, the hairdressing profession. I had nothing going on in my life, so I thought, why not? Well, I graduated while being pregnant with my firstborn. I decided at that time that it wasn't making sense for me as a pregnant woman to stand on my feet all day doing people's hair when I actually felt I needed, to take good care of myself. And I was thrilled to be pregnant. Before this, I felt like I couldn't have children. I thought, we had tried. I thought God was punishing me. So from there, here I was being pregnant, which was such a surprise to me. And I was so thankful and so happy to be pregnant that I wanted to stay home. So I stayed home and I was waiting for my firstborn to be born. And just being pregnant, I loved being pregnant. All my pregnancies, I loved. I just loved the glow. I loved everything. But when I had my firstborn, I felt him kick. And that really took me aback because I didn't look like I was pregnant. I had only gained 22 pounds with him, and triggers were starting to come back from years before. And I was not fat at that time, not at all, when the abortion happened. And so here he is kicking, and I'm putting 1 + 1 together. I had no child development education. I just knew that a sperm and egg came together from 8th grade, and that was about it for health class. There really wasn't a lot. And here he was kicking, and I just kind of was starting to understand the development of a child. So when this happened, without any prior knowledge of the experience of having a baby or knowledge of it, of having a baby, the truth was starting to come out. And as the truth started to come out, and I think this is something we need to realize, when a lot of these girls have abortions, they're not mothers. I mean, they're mothers, but they have not tasted motherhood before the abortion. So they really haven't gotten to the point, some of them at least, very early on, of understanding what it is like to be a mother. So for me, as the baby was kicking, the truth was coming out, and the truth was hitting me really hard. And my testimony was, as a Christian too, I felt, my testimony as becoming a Christian right before I became a Christian was I started hitting rock bottom. The guilt was coming in, and that's part of a post-abortive woman's experience. And although this was not me who chose the abortion, guilt was coming in. I had gone to a local pregnancy center, and I had taken their free pregnancy tests just to help me because I am so frugal. And I had just blurted out, and I have no idea why, about a previous abortion. And the lady there, not even knowing me or knowing what happened, said, God forgives as far as the east to the west. So I started dealing with these feelings. I mean, even wanting to, kill myself at one point when realizing that this was a baby that I had lost. So from there, I started to I went back to the pregnancy center because they had free car seats and clothing. And I was really dealing with how in the world, how do you forgive yourself? And I knew how to justify things. I knew how to make excuses, but I didn't know what forgiveness was. So to truly forgive, I couldn't really forgive myself. And then I came to the point of saying, okay, if God can forgive me, then who am I not to forgive myself? And if God can forgive as far as the east to the west, that's a lot of forgiveness. So for me, somebody who had many cousins and would babysit my cousins, and I loved kids, this was a really difficult thing for me. And later on, I did put the blame where it really belonged, but it was the beginning of my walk and my whole life changing and becoming a Christian. So shortly after my son was born, somebody invited me to church. I had heard about Jesus as a little girl. I was totally in love with him, this powerful man who could walk on water. I thought as a little girl, he was just amazing. And then with a death in the family, we no longer had gone to church. It was just for a very small time. So there was no real, influences about God growing up. And I think I always knew there was a God. It was kind of agnostic. I had family members who said there was a God. So it was kind of a distant God, very distant, not where one can be intimate with this God. So as I started going to church, I was invited to church, and I heard the gospel the second time I went to this church. The first time I went with someone, the second time I went with myself and my son. I walked up to the church because the people to me were friendly enough, and I heard the gospel, and my eyes just opened to how much God loves us. He loves us so much that he sent Christ to die for us. John 3:16. He sent his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but shall have everlasting life. And I just believed. I really took that to heart. I was struggling with feeling loved after all these awful feelings of guilt and everything were just haunting me. So it made sense to me. And then shortly after, from there, I basically had a lot of classes under my belt. I had women mentoring me. I had a lot of church support as far as, bringing my kids to church and them having a lot of different programs and stuff to do. But before this, what had happened was, because the abortion wasn't dealt with, it did affect me as far as having to deal with it later. And for example, basically my story of the abortion, and I'll get into that after I talk about just when women have had abortions. Something that had happened to me was the nurse had covered up the vacuum. I wasn't told. The doctor's office did not tell me anything, nothing to expect. I was brought to the clinic without any idea of what an abortion was. And the doctor took me in, just told me to open my legs, put them in the stirrups, open my legs, no idea, no informed consent. And he had stuck something in me, and I didn't know what it was. And I was taken to a restaurant to dilate. And I think nowadays they don't let girls leave, but I was told to leave. And the person I was with, who brought me to the clinic without me knowing what an abortion was, took me there, had me, this person was supposed to sign the papers and threw the papers at me and said, don't even read it, just sign it. And this was a parent. So of course I trusted my parent and did what I was told to do. But without even knowing how far along I was or what to expect, I was then taken to a restaurant, and I did not understand what was happening, but I was dilating. So I just knew I was in a bunch of pain. I think lunch was ordered, and I could no longer sit up. I just was laying like on the bench, and I had enough manners to know this was not appropriate in a restaurant, but I couldn't help it. I was in so much agony and pain. And what was happening was that those rods in me were dilating me and, opening my cervix up, but I did not know that. So a waitress had come by and asked if I was okay, and this person said, she's fine, and she kind of covered it. And she said, let's get out of here. So the check was paid, and out the door we went, but I had to stay in the car until we could go back to the doctor's office. So I was in the car dilating, and if you think about this, basically my baby was just being killed in the car, in the very front of my eyes, in this person's eyes, and nobody was helping me. This was a real quick decision. I had missed a period, and then I had missed another one without even realizing it, because life was so busy in high school. And so this was a quick decision. There was no communication. It was just all the adults who made the decision. It's a big blur to me. It happened so quickly. And then I think some of the doctors knew some of the adults involved, so they felt this was best for her to not even know what's happening and just get it done. So back at the doctor's office, the doctor did not tell me a thing, and I do not even remember how I got back on that table in so much pain. That is a memory that's still blocked for me. But I do remember being on that table, and the vacuum, I remember a nurse holding my hand, and I had nobody. She was the only one who said, it's going to be okay. And I remember, because of the pain, I was stiffened. I was staring at the wall, and all of a sudden I heard this vacuum noise, and I turned to my left, and I saw this machine with all this blood. And the nurse jumped in front of me and kind of blocked my view so I wouldn't be able to see that. And I just kind of had to take the pain until it was over, and not even understanding anything about this. And then I was picked up by somebody else. I was left at the clinic, and then I was picked up by somebody else who I had no idea was going to pick me up. And then I pretty much had to walk home, partway home, so that nobody would know about this, because if they saw me dropped off at my home, they probably would have figured it out. So this was all done in secret. It was done very quickly. So back to, and then the next day, I was in gym class as if it never happened. So nobody talked about this. It was swept under the rug, and nobody dealt with this. And when I had gotten pregnant, this was my first boyfriend. So we hear a lot of people shunning girls, saying, you should keep your legs closed and don't be so slutty. This was my first boyfriend, and Definitely, there was no values of waiting until you get married. That was not something that was really taught in school or my friends or anybody. So, this I did learn from the school that condoms were safe, and we know that's not true. But questioning the condom, wondering if it was okay, this boy told me, oh yeah, he reassured me it was fine. And so the condom broke, and I remember being very mad because I really felt tricked. I trusted this guy, and the condom actually broke. So I just wanted to go right home. I was pretty ticked off. And then once I, was home, it was almost like it was in the back of life. It was on the back burner. I mean, no kid thinks they're going to get pregnant. They just don't think it's going to happen to them. You think you're invincible. So from there, one day I was in the bathroom and I had missed my period, and my mother I had gone in the kitchen, and she said, when's the last time you had your period? And I said, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I ever kept track of it or was taught to. And she had pretty much shamed me and said, don't tell me you're pregnant. Oh my goodness, don't tell me you're pregnant. And the shaming and everything that a girl can absorb, that fear is just, stifling when you're in a crisis. So there was a shocking aspect to all this. I froze. I had no idea as I was trying to process this that I could be pregnant. I knew being pregnant in a lot of the eyes of my relatives was something that was shunned. It was something where kids were brats, and you don't want to be pregnant. You're going to get fat. Looks are everything. And then as a teenager, looks are everything too. On and on it goes. And you've got your peer, your friends and everything. So I remember I had absorbed that anger, and then, just being sent to my room by my father, who was shaming me for getting pregnant, although sleeping around was okay. So there was a lot of shame, a lot of anger, a lot of emotion. And with that emotion being dragged over to my boyfriend's home without his mother there, really no communication, just this is what's gonna happen kind of thing. I didn't even know what an abortion was. I was asked, do you want me to help you raise this kid or what? I knew I no longer wanted help because I didn't want to be in trouble anymore, and I was in big trouble. So up to this point, my whole identity changed. I went from, being looked upon by my, in my eyes, by relatives as, just such a good kid, and so loved by some of my relatives, to being dealt with in a very harsh way, my confidence going down, not knowing how to deal with shame that I had never really experienced before, not knowing how to deal with a crisis, and being told by an adult that an abortion would be the way to go. And not even knowing what an abortion was, I was taken out of school. And I don't remember really agreeing to being taken out of school, and just somehow told that, I had an appointment at the doctor's, and going there as a kid and not even really understanding all of this, and being stuck with not even understanding what, pregnant was, just knowing that you were in trouble and you are going to get out of trouble. We're going to the doctor so you can get out of trouble. And then I pretty much blame the doctors being there. Nobody talked to me. Nobody sat down and said, do you know what an abortion is? Do you know how far along you are? Do you know what being pregnant is? There was no conversation. And then from there, like I said, it was just all, swept under the rug as if it never happened. And so when I was having my firstborn, it all was coming out. And so that's, I would say I am definitely pro-life because I have, not only was I pro-life before, if I would have known what an abortion was, but going through abortion and seeing the consequences of what abortion was pretty bad. And it's something no woman has to go through, and it affects them all their life. And then especially when you become a mother and you do go through the birth of having a child, you now know much more. You know about the child's development, you know about what the baby having a you know what having a baby is now. So it's very different for women who actually have had the baby. And then as I had my second and third, I had almost lost my first baby too because the placenta was separating because they had me on Pitocin for too long. The second child, I went natural, and then my last few children, babies, I had home births. And the way the midwives will get in there and teach you about child development is amazing. You learn so much from them about how to have a baby in the baby's development. So that right there too just reinforces life in a million ways. All right, so moving on to talk about what's been going on since then. So I had my children. I decided to raise them, to stay home. It was a huge sacrifice. I actually decided to homeschool too. We did not have money. I had to use all kinds of resources from WIC, Medicaid. The church had helped out with different programs. On and on it goes. So God, I really could see God providing. And this was in a trailer where bunk beds were shared, and just living a lot on the outside too. As the older children grew, we had the younger ones. There was a 12.5 year gap between my oldest and youngest. So we definitely, had 5 sons, and we definitely, worked really hard at taking care of our family and homeschooling. And then in 2017, I had finally had some time to say, okay, I want to deal with this at a deeper level. So I took a class about healing at CareNet. And then in 2019, where society had not talked about this, I actually was able to talk at the State House about my testimony and testify against bills, testify against abortion, which was great the way God opened that door for me, because we lived in lived or live in a society where people are not talking about this. We are just starting to have more conversations. We need to educate women. This was always done in secret. I have actually been able to testify in front of a doctor from OBGYN in Concord, where my abortion was. In 2020, I got on the sidewalk to try to help girls. In 2021, this year, there were some bills I testified against, and I have my YouTube channel. So I definitely have used what God has given me to try to help others. So to wrap up my testimony here, I definitely am pro-life. There's no question about it. It is murder. I believe in all cases, rape, incest, whatever, it's not the child's fault. Recently, I have been on Tyler Bluntman's social media. Do I believe girls should go to jail, as he says? No. Maybe some who really know what they're doing, but for the most part, girls do not know what they're doing. They're being lied to. And if anyone goes to jail, I feel the doctors really should, and Planned Parenthood, etc., because you are committing murder. but so many girls are deceived and they don't know. And what I would like to see is girls to be educated, to have more resources, to have support. Like I said, I had nobody. All I knew was I was in trouble. I was shamed and condemned. I had nobody to talk to about this. I wasn't even able to be alone with my boyfriend to talk this out. There were no resources. It was just boom, here's an abortion. The doctors, I believe, need to sit down with girls and families, talk about adoption and talk about other resources. We are a country that has so much help. There's really no excuse for this. So that's pretty much my story. Becoming a Christian after I went to church, hearing the gospel, it changes your life, and trying to be the best mom I could be, the best mother that I knew how to be. Children are a blessing. I would not have traded all the riches in the world for being a mother. They give you so much joy and love. And at that time, as a new mother, I definitely needed to feel a sense of worthiness, and that was being a mother. But I think most girls want to be the best mother they can be. And there's tons of support out there and classes, and if you just work at it, so many books. You, even coming from a broken family, which I did, where my grandmother had 10 kids from the projects, they had nothing. There's still not one of them who should have been aborted. My uncle played a big role in my life. I don't know where I would have been without him. And yeah, so definitely I don't think there's any excuse for abortion. Life may be tough, but kids grow up and they leave. And, even a public school is there for parents who feel like they cannot, that they need help raising their children. We chose to homeschool, but there's just so much help, and the churches are there all for the asking. So I am definitely pro-life, and in the future, maybe there'll be a video about a lot of this, ins and outs of raising children. So I'm just going to leave this here, and this is my testimony video.